now that we're going down this rabbit hole, it's like I met a guy passing on the street, and he just grabs my arm and he says, "Hey, I came on the plane with your wife."
Oh my God.
We're gonna have to talk about that. I didn't think I was gonna start out like this, did you guys? Okay, this is the part of the marathon where it's like, I'm not gonna make it, and then it's one more film, and you're like, oh, I see that the finish line is right there, and then you get a surge of energy, and you guys are giving me the surge of energy. So, thank you very much. Okay, so I was so happy that Charlie Tabish, when he conceived this whole The World Comes to Hollywood program this year, I was so happy that he included this Architects of Noir tract in it, and that he included this film in particular because film scholars and historians like yours truly will on occasion make the argument that this was really the first true film noir to be made in Hollywood. The thing that is daunting about that is that it really had no influence at the time, because it's a very short B movie made at RKO by people who were really not well known at all at the time. I mean, it is almost the definition of a B movie. You will have plenty of time to get to Swingers, because this is not a long film, but it is a remarkable film. And the most remarkable thing about it is its cinematography. And so it makes perfect sense that to help me present this film to you, we have one of the great cinematographers of our generation. He has shot, I don't know, how many now? 13, 14 films with Spike? Something like that? With Spike Lee, and a great director in his own right. And I met him right here a few years ago when we introduced The Third Man together. That was the first time I ever met Ernest, and he has become a very dear friend. So ladies and gentlemen, the great Ernest Dickerson. This is great. I don't think this many people saw Stranger on the Third Floor when it came out. so it's nice. Boris Inkster's happy today, you know? So let's just get rolling here. What makes this film remarkable? For the fact that it's an impoverished movie, what makes it remarkable?
Well, it has a reputation for being the first film noir. It was the first film to really bring a lot of the German expressionist styles to Hollywood. And Nicholas Musuraca, who became synonymous with noir cinematography, he did this film. His use of shadows, it's amazing, black and white. You've never seen a movie with so many blind shadows in it.
It's become like a cliche almost, that like the streaking Venetian blind shadows. Well, if you want to know where that all started, you're about to see.
This is it, and you know, it's beautifully done, and it's you know, the story is interesting because it's not much of a story, but you know, back in those days, when you had the guys toiling, the writers toiling in the B films, you know, in the 30s, 40s, and early 50s, and they had to like crank out those B films rather quickly. And you know, a lot of them kind of inadvertently came up with the surrealist style. The surrealist idea of writing was called automatic writing. You write without thinking about what you're writing. You just put it down. And you can see that in this film. There's a lot of things that happen that make you go, what? But it's real interesting, and it's got an amazing short performance by Peter Lorre, the amazing Peter Lorre.
Yeah, which is also kind of well, I'm going to dovetail on what you're saying first, because one thing that is very essential to noir is this sort of subjective quality, that the film puts you in the mindset of someone who's paranoid and or delusional or something. And that was why that expressionistic style, which very simply, expressionism is the concept that the art direction and what you are visually seeing on the screen is reflective of the inner state of the characters in the film, right? So it has nothing to do with naturalism or anything. It's like you're seeing what the world appears like to them.
And there's nothing realistic in this film at all.
Nothing, not a moment in this film is natural or realistic.
But it's cool. It's quite beautiful. I mean, some of the imagery in it is really quite amazing. And some of the shots on Peter Lorre, you know, Peter Lorre, he had a very, I guess, sleazy way of presenting his evil.
Yeah.
Which is very, very interesting. And I, you know, I don't want to tell you too much about it. You know, you'll see. But, you know, some things happen that are like, whoa, how did that happen?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense, is what Ernest is trying to tell you. It really doesn't actually make sense. But Peter Lorre's presence in this film is very, very crucial and symbolic, because in my Dark City book, I said, you know, what's so meaningful about this is that Peter Lorre kind of represented, in that little diminutive body, he kind of represented this old world European sense of decay and desperation that he brought with him, right? And he had become famous playing the child killer in Fritz Lang's M. And then he looks totally different in this film because he must have been taking Ozempic or something. Because,
And he looks totally different in the film he did after this, The Maltese Falcon, which he's also in with Alicia Cook Jr.
yes.
They're both in this film, and they did this before The Maltese Falcon.
Just before the Falcon, yeah.
Yeah.
And very interesting that while we're talking about the influence of German Expressionism on Musaraka's lighting, the director of this film, Boris Ingster, was a really interesting story because he was a protege of the great Russian director Sergei Eisenstein, who he is famous for creating a very dynamic editing style, montage, and that was Eisenstein. He had very, very advanced ideas about how to cut film to tell a story and to simulate really the working of the mind and the way it parcels out and pieces information together. And so Ingster knew all of this stuff, but when he came to this country, he's just making lousy B movies, right? I mean, that was true of so many of the emigres who came to this country. They weren't entrusted with the A-list material. They got a lot of B stuff.
But, you know, that's why I'm a fan of a lot of B movies, because, you know, there's a lot of gems that you find in some of the B movies, you know? The kind of stuff you could never see today. And, you know, the way that the writers were writing those films, I think a lot of the audiences were being exposed to surrealist philosophies and techniques in those films without knowing about it. You know, maybe they walked away from it and said, that didn't make too much sense. But, you know, but that was what surrealism was all about. It was stream of consciousness and writing surrealism. So if you look at this film as dream logic, nightmare dream logic, then it works. And, you know, who else did that? You know, David Lynch. You know, perfect dream logic, so.
And really interesting to note that Frank Pardos is the main writer on this screenplay, but one of the contributors to the screenplay, and I've never unfortunately been able to figure out precisely what his contribution was, is the writer Nathaniel West, who at the time that he wrote this screenplay was working on, or had just submitted the manuscript for a book called The Day of the Locust, which is the greatest novel ever written about Hollywood, right? And he would not live much longer. I mean, he died in a car accident not long after this movie was made. And also of note is the woman, the female lead in this film, Margaret Talichet.
Guess who she married?
Yeah, well, tell the audience who she married, yeah.
She became Mrs. William Wyler. And that was the end of her acting career because he didn't want her to act.
Yeah.
So she married William Wyler and stayed with him until the end.
Yeah.
So.
And I presented this film one time up in San Francisco at my Noir City Film Festival, and I had Kathy Weiler, who is the daughter of William Wyler and Margaret Talashe. And she said, this is such a delight because this is the first time anybody has invited me to anything from my mother and not my father.
And Kathy
So,
Weiler is here with us tonight.
say that again.
I'm here. I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
What I love about this festival. It's like moths to the flame. We come to the TCM festival. It is absolutely, that's great. Thank you so much. She's marvelous.
Yeah.
I just wish that she had kept acting because she has such a fantastic face and she's just great in this film. So
I just have to, if I can just tell you, I'm really only here because of Sandra Schulberg.
So everybody, all the royalty is here in the house tonight. It's fantastic. Very, very good. Very good. Okay, so anything else you want to share about this movie and why it's just kind of what I love is I didn't know anything about this movie, and it's like a film that gets discovered on a battered VHS tape when I was young. I never, like Detour I saw on television late at night, but I never even saw this. This is more obscure than Detour, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And now you are going to see a beautiful digital restoration of this landmark film, and it's kind of remarkable.
Yeah, for anybody who's really interested, there is a beautiful Blu-ray of it that Warner has released, and the only frills on it are a couple of radio shows that Peter Lorre did at the end, and I think a couple of cartoons. But it's an interesting film. It's too bad we won't be talking about it afterwards because I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions.
Yes, we can't do any spoilers or anything like that. But it is, as you'll see, I mean, this is an extravaganza of low-budget art direction and cinematography, real interesting use on the soundtrack.
And Nicholas Musaraka became the go-to guy for noir. He did the Cat People,
Yep.
Return of the Cat People, and he did.
Well, he did the film we showed on opening night, Out of the Past.
Out of the
That's
Past,
the
yeah.
Nick
That's
Musaraka
supposed to be his
cinematography.
masterpiece, yeah.
That is his masterpiece. Yep. Damn, now I want to watch this movie. Okay, we're gonna let you do it right now. Thank
Have
you
fun.
so much. Thank you so
Enjoy.
much for coming out. This is kind of where film noir starts in Hollywood. Straight here on the third floor. Ernest, thanks a million.
Thank you.